All right, we are all set, and in today's video I wanted to talk to you guys about the ACC formula that I've personally used to pretty much grow in every area of my life. You know, by the time that I was 25, I had a multi-six-figure business that I was only really working 2 to 4 hours a day on, sometimes really like about 6 hours a week on it. I was in an amazing relationship with my dream girl, which I still am. I had an amazing friend group of multi-millionaires and people that I really looked up to, and really just consistently improving and growing when most people, most men, peak in their teenage years. They peak at high school, they peak in their early 20s, and they're always has-beens or have-beens. Where they're constantly, any conversation that you have around them, they're always thinking, oh, remember that one time back then? And that's their peak. And they're not really improving, they're not really growing, they're not really pushing themselves to higher levels. So this is something that you probably have heard before, but nobody talks about the reasons of why it's actually powerful, why it creates such amount of high success. You know, a lot of coaches will talk about these things to try to get you into their programs, and it's great, it's cool. You know, it's the way that they market, but they never talk about why it's important, why it actually creates success. So that's what I wanted to get into today in terms of what I've done. So the first part of the formula is accountability. And the reason why this is so powerful is because as men, as humans in general, we are really bad at holding ourselves accountable to a higher standard. You know, we are pleasure-seeking and comfort-seeking driven animals. To go further into this, our brains has 7 centers for fear and anxiety and only 1 center for pleasure. And so you have to take into account what that really means is that our brain does not want to feel any sense of discomfort. It does not want to sense fear. It does not want to sense anxiety. And that 1 center for pleasure is super strong, that there's only 1 of them. And so the 7-to-1 ratio already makes it extremely difficult for you to hold yourself to those higher standards, those higher values that you seek, but your brain, the primitive brain that you have, does not seek those things. It seeks comfort, it seeks pleasure in the moment. But also, you know, we have this cognitive bias called the commitment consistency bias. And what that essentially means is we want to be consistent to our current identity and our current habits because that is what we built our identity on. There's a good book called How the Mind Works by Steven Pinker. Highly suggest you guys to read this. But in that, he talks about you know, it's very difficult for our brains to change unless put under immense pressure where it has to change in that new environment to survive. And another bias, which is the availability bias that we have, you know, we are going to go towards whatever is available and easy. And so you might have this standard of you know, holding yourself accountable to eating healthy foods and losing a ton of weight. But it's really easy to do that when you're not hungry. It's really easy to do that when you're not hungry, and when you are hungry and there's this cookie jar right in front of you, the availability bias is going to kick in and you are not going to be able to hold yourself accountable. So how do we get across this? How do we actually overcome this? The first step is to have outside accountability. And if you have someone else, especially someone that you look up to who is holding you accountable, you're actually using guilt and shame in a positive manner. You know, most of our behaviors are driven from not wanting to feel guilt, not wanting to feel shame. But when you have outside accountability of someone who you actually look up to, who you don't want to disappoint, you're going to feel very guilty and you're going to feel very shameful to do those activities like eat that jar of cookies, or not go and approach that woman that you want to talk to, or start that business and complete that project. And so the guilt and shame is going to kick in. You don't want to feel those things and you're going to do the thing that you're supposed to do. But also when you have outside accountability, you become aware of the values that you are upholding. And this is really a cognitive behavioral therapy tool where if you have someone constantly, and this is what happened when I first got therapy, is I was unaware of what I was unaware of. And that's what ignorance truly is. And when you have someone from the outside being able to look at it without the lenses, without the perceptions that you have, and can pinpoint your problems, can pinpoint why you're not doing the things that you're doing, and can pinpoint what you truly value, you're going to become aware of those things constantly. And you're more likely to uphold yourself to those values. So the first pillar to this is accountability, and especially having outside accountability. Now the first C, the second pillar, is having community. And you've probably heard this in the self-development world. You are the average of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. But why is this actually true? And it's very important to question the premise of why you are the average of the 5 people you hang around. What is the deeper reasoning? So, we are creatures of tribe. This is the reason why we have survived as human beings for a long period of time. We got into tribes. We were able to hunt together, gather together, and really just create these social hierarchies and become these extremely in-depth social creatures that allowed us to not only survive but thrive and become the become the top of the food chain. And so if you don't uphold the values of the tribe, so let's say you're hanging around with bodybuilders, guys who are consistently working out, guys who are consistently going to healthy restaurants or eating really good food, taking care of their health, that is now the value of your tribe. Your tribe upholds this value of health and good eating and consistently exercising. So for you to actually go against that value, it tells your brain that, everybody in this tribe upholds this value, but you are not upholding that value. And if you are not upholding that value, that may mean you will get abandoned by the tribe. If you get abandoned by the tribe, it lowers your chances of survival, it lowers your chances of reproduction, and you have a higher chance of literally dying. And this is all happening on a subconscious level. So if you have a bunch of friends who are into bodybuilding, exercising, working out, eating right, and not sitting at home all day, drinking, smoking, all of these things, then chances are you are going to want to uphold the values of that tribe, and you are going to conform to the tribe's value. And you're going to start exercising, you're going to start eating correctly, which is going to improve your life. And also the social accountability. So not only do you have outside accountability, but you also have social accountability, and you're following the law of 33%. This is something that I was first introduced to by Tai Lopez, and he talks about the law of 33%. And what it essentially means is you want to always surround yourself with 33% of the time with people who are above you, because now you know what's possible. You aspire to be like them. They inspire you, but they can also teach you how they got there. 33% of the time with people who are on the same level as you, so you can hold each other accountable, push each other, actually motivate each other. And 33% of the time with people who are one step below you, so that you can bring them up. And by you bringing them up, you're constantly being reminded of the values that essentially got you to where you are right now. So the second pillar of it is community, the first C. Now the third C, and I put this as guidance and mentors, but really it's just coaching. The reason why having guidance, mentorship is so important, and the old quote, standing on the shoulders of giants, is because you simply don't know what you don't know. And the reason why you are where you're at is because of unawareness, of true ignorance, which is you not knowing what you don't know. When I got my first mentor in business, Brandon Carter, who's a good friend of mine now, also continues to mentor me regularly. I was about, at the time, $8,000 in credit card debt, $16,000 in student debt. So put together, $24,000 in debt. I was driving Uber at the time. and I pretty much had nothing going on in my life. I was living with my parents. I had actually dropped out of school because I wanted to start my business, but I didn't know how to make things happen. And I was trying things for 2-3 years. And when I got him as a mentor, he essentially asked me to invest into a $10,000 program. And that was US at the time. So for me, whoops, there we go. I thought it was cut. So for me, $10,000 US was around $13,000, $14,000 Canadian. So he was essentially asking me to go more in debt. And I remember I was like, at some point I was like, I don't know what I don't know. And I would rather try to learn from someone who's done it before me. And so I invested that 10K. And within the first week of working with him, I ended up making $35,000. And it was simple tools, simple strategies. And again, I just didn't know what I didn't know. And so if you try to do things by trial and error in life, what's going to happen is there's an opportunity cost. The opportunity cost with trial and error is that, one, you lose a ton of money with the time that you spend. So if you think about it in terms of minimum wage, right? Let's say it takes you 3 years to figure things out on your own, whereas if you did it with a mentor, it would take you a month or 2 months. If you try it for 3 years, well, sure, cool. You saved, I don't know, $10,000, right? Of coaching in terms of whatever you're trying to get coached at. But what happens is those 3 years, if you think of it in minimum wage, let's say the minimum wage is $10 an hour, and your time, you're going to be spending, 20 hours a week just trying to figure things out on your own. So we'll do times 20, and then there's 52 weeks in a year. So we'll do times 52 and then times 3. What essentially you have done in terms of wasting those 3 years, when you could have done it in a week, is you have spent $31,000, I don't know if you can see it there, and $200 of your time. And your time might be more than minimum wage. And so figuring things out on your own through trial and error, there's an opportunity cost where you're actually wasting more money through time. And time is the only thing you do not get back. So that's number one. But let's say within those 3 years, you also did a bunch of bad habits that takes you another 3 years to unlearn. Well, now you've wasted more than 30 grand. You've wasted 60K of your time when you could have just gotten what you wanted from the beginning. So there's an opportunity cost to you actually doing trial and error. But also, you want to leverage your time. You want to leverage expertise. You want to leverage other people's success so that you can become successful in whatever area it is that you want to be successful. And that is where ROI-based thinking comes into play. It's like, well, if I decide to get coaching from this person and invest this amount of time or invest this amount of effort or invest this amount of resources, what is going to be the direct ROI, return on my investment over the next 3 months, 6 months, year, 3 years, 5 years that I wouldn't get if I were to do things on my own, that I can leverage this person's expertise. And, when we go back to the law of 33%, which is spend time with 33% of the time with people who are above you, who can teach you the ways, the top 33% is very hard to get to unless they have incentive to teach you. Most of the time, and I've gotten people do this to me as well, like they'll message me and be like, hey, if you're ever in Toronto, I would love to take you out for coffee. It's like, dude, first of all, I don't know who you are. You haven't built any relationship with me. There's no value in me getting coffee with you. And of course, you want to humble yourself and spend time with as many people as possible. But at the same time, if you are someone who is a little bit above the person before you, you want to utilize your time to its maximum efficiency. And so for you to just spend time talking endlessly with someone who's just grabbing you coffee or grabbing dinner is not efficient maximization of your time. And so the top 33% of people who are above you is very hard to get to unless they have an incentive. Oftentimes, the incentive is going to be money. I've spent over $150,000 on coaches, on business coaches, on lifestyle coaches, on relationship coaches, on dating coaches, on mindset coaching, on therapy, on different types of therapy. I spent so much money on seminars, conferences, all these things, because I realized I'm not going to get to that top 33% of people unless they're incentivized to give to me. A lot of times though, you can get to those people if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the money. Get to those people by offering something of value that will make their life or their business easier. So, one of my first assistants, he came to me and he edited a bunch of my videos for free, and he sent them all to me, and he's like, hey, take these, put them on your YouTube channel. Do you want me to continue doing this? And I'm like, fuck yeah, like this is awesome. I can't do this on my own. So he was able to get that top 33% of mentorship, and I wouldn't even consider myself top 33%, but I was one step ahead of him. And there's people who are above me who are one step ahead of me. And so you can either utilize money to get them to give what you want and leverage their time and expertise, or use your tools, your resources, your expertise, your knowledge to make their life easier without them even asking for it, to be able to get to that top 33% of people who can mentor you. And if you have these three things, the A, which is the accountability, the C, which is community, and this other C, which is coaching, you will be able to become successful in whatever area it is that you are trying to become successful in, whether it's within your relationships, whether it's within your business or career, whether it's within your personal growth and your mindset, and whether it's within your happiness, your fulfillment in life, your balance, your health, all of these things that are important to making you a happy individual who's consistently progressing. So ACC, accountability, community, coaching, put simply, but if you want to know the reasons, this is all why. And so if this video helped you out, which hopefully it did, make sure to click that subscribe button, comment down your thoughts below or any questions that you have. And I'm also going to leave a link down below to my personal Instagram, my personal Facebook. You can add me as a friend, and I would love to just talk to you if you have any questions on there. And hopefully this video helped you out, and we'll talk soon. Take care.